And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I'm a fan of the Empire Builder series. That's what this game is called. The original game was Empire Builder, which is it's called a crayon rail train game, and that was based in North America. This one here is Nippon Rails, and this one's based in, well, shockingly, Japan. There's not a lot of other changes to it, but let's take a look at it. If you've never seen a crayon rail game before, come on in, we'll take a look, and we'll be back. Alright, here is the map for Nippon Rails, and if you've never played a crayon rail game before, basically you have a crayon, and then you have a pawn, which stands for your train. Of course, I guess it would help to have a pawn that's the same color as your crayon. And what you do on your turn is, you are going to have millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to be building track on the board. So you will do so by connecting dots. And when you do that, each line that you draw on the board is going to cost a certain amount depending on what dot you connect to. Usually it's 1 million, but connecting to mountains can be 2 million. Connecting to super tall mountains, the Alpine mountains, is 5 million. Going through lakes, crossing rivers costs extra. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to connect different cities so that you can deliver goods from one city to the other. Once you start building your railroad, you will have a train that can move a certain distance. At the beginning, it's pretty slow. It can only move 9. But later on, you can upgrade your train and take one that can go up to 12 speed. And then it can carry 2 goods, or you can take one that can go 12 speed and carry 3 goods. But at the beginning, you start with a lowly 9 train. Now, when you get to different cities that have goods, you can pick up the good that matches that city. Each city has specific types of goods. So you can see, for example, that this city here has the little boats the little, whatever that little ladder, that can is. That is the good from that city, and it also has imports. So you have a chip here that's imports that will match that city, so when I go to here, I can pick up imports and put that on my train. And you're doing all of this because as the game progresses, you are going to be drawing these cards that will show you what different cities want. For example, here, Kanazawa wants tourists, and if you deliver tourists to there, you'll get $18 million. Kitayushu wants paper, and you did 21 million to get paper. You can only do one of these, and usually the farther it is away from where the stuff is made, the more money you're going to get. So you have to build your track slowly and carefully because you don't want to run out of money, and then slowly move your train around, picking up goods and delivering them. Each turn, you move your train, and then you build more track. You can build up to $20 million worth of track per turn, connecting to there's different cities that you can connect to. And the first person to get their train upgraded and get a certain amount of money, depending on which game it is the winner of the game. Or connect all the cities, not get the train upgraded. So, for example, here in Japan, you can see that the winner is the first person to connect all 4 major cities. Those are those cities with the big red sections on them. And then whoever does that and also has $250 million is the winner. Or I guess it's 250 million yen here, I'm not sure. But anyhow, that is how the game works. Now, what is specific here to Japan? Well, the simple truth is there's really nothing that's really special about the game mechanics with Japan. The components are the same mediocre quality that they've been, although they're way better than when Empire Builder first came out so many years ago. But there's some ferries on the map and such, and you can see one right here that you can connect to, and that's pretty neat. But for the most part, the events, there's a lot of earthquakes and typhoons, and actually it makes you kind of think in regards to recent events. But what makes Japan stand out amongst the other empire building games is the map itself. I mean, look at this map. It's long and thin, and they had all this ocean, and they're putting the logo on a giant compass, which no one needs for this game. Over here, a big logo of the game, and up here, no one needs any of that. And we do that so that it looks like there's more map here, because this is one long, skinny map, which means there's a lot of chokeholds in this. Now, I thought it was really funny. In the rule book itself, they have these rules for 5 to 6 players, and they go, since the publication of the first time, this came out in 1992, players have been asking Mayfair for rules for 5 to 6 players. In the past, our first thought has been, are you crazy? But on further review, we realized it's possible to accommodate more players. Liars! Okay, maybe it is possible, but never! Come on, this is a 2-player map that you might convince me to play 3-player. But I will not play with 4 players, let alone 5 or 6. And I'll tell you why. Of all the maps that I've played Empire Builders on, this is the one I dislike the most. And I can understand that for some people that's going to be a challenge. They're going to like it. But there is mountains everywhere. It's thin. It's brutal. This is probably the most brutal empire building game that I have played. And I think I'm giving my opinion, so let's cut to the opinion. Alright, first comments on the game system itself. If you see my other reviews, you probably already know my thoughts on this. I like the Empire Builder series of games. They're fun, although I very strongly believe in a limit of 3 players because they are very, very time-intensive things. You look at there and say, okay, I'm going to go from here to here, and you sit there and you have to think for a long time on the best route to get from one spot to another. These are much nicer quality than the original series of Crayon Rail games were, although it still seems like these are always a step behind current quality standards in board game. But the artwork's nice, and it is a good package, and I would imagine that the people who like this style game don't really care about super quality components anyway. Now, on to the specific game, Nippon Rails. I already said that it's a brutal game, and that's why it's not my favorite of the series, and that's still the truth of it. I like tough games, and I like Empire Builder because it is a tough game, but this one just almost feels like work. Gruesome, difficult work. And the long, thin map. I'm sorry, Japan is a wonderful place, but for games, I hate their map. Any war game set in Japan, and it's just such a thin map, and for Rails, it's tough, especially when you're competing against other people. So, if you want a challenge, I think this is one of the more challenging maps. I like the bigger, wider, open maps myself, like Australia, China, Mars, but I can see that there is certainly a group of people who would enjoy the tougher aspects of Nippon Rails. And then, of course, there's the fact that if you like Japan and you want that theme flavor, or maybe some of you out there collect all these, in which case, why are you watching this review anyway? You know you're going to get it. So, there you go. Not necessarily for me. I like the system. This isn't my favorite game in that system, but it is a tough, excruciating affair that some people might find pleasant.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.